Well, welcome to the second week of our brand new 9-month series, Ascend. And first thing we're doing in this series is spending a few weeks talking about Jesus' introductory teachings in the Sermon on the Mount. When Jesus was first going around and teaching, he was talking about the gospel of the kingdom and how the kingdom of God and the kingdom of heaven had come near. And we're told at the beginning of Matthew chapter 5 that when Jesus saw crowds gathered around, he went up on a mountain and his disciples went up after him. They ascended the mountain. They made that ascent to sit at his feet and learn from his teachings. And we are inviting all of us to go on this journey together of ascending that mountain and learning at the feet of Jesus. Last week we talked about the Beatitudes, these famous teachings of Jesus of blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are those who mourn. And we talked about how oftentimes those who are considered unblessed from the world's perspective, in the kingdom of heaven's perspective, they are considered blessed. And today we're picking up on the next component of teaching of Jesus in these introductory remarks that he makes to to the Sermon on the Mount. And one of the things that he talks about is how we are to be salt and light. And so our bottom line today is that those who are called blessed in the kingdom of heaven are also called to be a blessing to the world. In this teaching, Jesus uses two illustrations, two metaphors for talking about how we as his disciples are to be, who we are to be, what is our purpose, what is our function. Whenever I think about salt, I think of funny mistakes that people make with salt, and one of the things that comes to mind is how sometimes we mix up salt and sugar. And you probably have a story from your own life or someone who sometime or another was trying to make something sweet and they accidentally put in salt instead of sugar, and that can be a big mistake, can make a huge difference. I crack up because once upon a time our family had these little pretty jars that we would keep different little powders and things in that we used frequently just to, make them more accessible, easier to use, and they looked pretty. And so we didn't always label them that well at first. And so we would have a little jar of salt, a little jar of sugar, even a little jar of this medicine that our kids were on at the time called Miralax, a laxative. And it was hilarious because it was like we were playing powder roulette, every time we went to get salt or sugar or Miralax, which one are we getting? And we'd have to be careful to make sure that we didn't get the wrong one at the wrong time. That could be an adventure. Well, as Jesus followers, we're called to be salt. And, in that day and time, salt served a very functional role. For a lot of us now, it's just strictly a flavor thing. But for them then, it was a preservative. It was a way of keeping things from going bad. And yes, it was also a way to flavor things and to bring flavor out of things. They knew that too, of course. But it's interesting to think about both of those components play into what Jesus was saying about who the disciples of Jesus should be. That we should be people who, by virtue of who we are, by virtue of our existence in the world, bring a level of purification to the world, make it better, keep it from going bad so quickly. And that we should be people who bring out flavor in the world, people who make life taste better. Jesus didn't stop there. He also talked about being the light of the world and how, as Christians, as Jesus followers, as disciples, we should let our light shine. We shouldn't hide it. Who would hide a light? And I thought of my kids, every time they get some kind of fun light, whether it's a lightsaber or one of those glow sticks or a new flashlight or whatever, first thing they want to do is go find some darkness to shine it in, right? Because it's going to look cooler in the darkness. And that's what light is made for illuminating the darkness. And Jesus said that's what disciples are for. They're for illuminating the darkness around in the world. So we have this imagery, salt and light, that we are to flavor the world, that we are to keep the world from going bad so quickly. We're to illuminate what is dark. Wow, what a vision for the people of God. I think this is so critical at the onset of this Sermon on the Mount to understand what it is that we're embarking on in this journey and why we're embarking on it. And it is this, that we have a special role to play. It's not that we are striving to be better than everyone else. It's not that we are trying to elevate ourselves and achieve some great reward for ourselves. We are being called to a specific purpose and occupation in the kingdom of heaven, and the disciple of Jesus is to be salt and light in this world, to help bring the kingdom of heaven here on earth by virtue of who we are becoming and how we are being changed in the way that we are living our lives and the way ultimately that we treat other people. And so as we embark into the rest of the Sermon on the Mount, and Jesus talks about how to navigate things like anger and lust and relationships, even with enemies, and how to not be judgmental and all these different things, and even the way that we practice our spiritual life, our religious life, and being careful to avoid, vainglory and all these things. It really all ties back to Jesus' heart for growing up a people who would be rich in love and good deeds to others, who would want to be a blessing to others. And this is our identity, this is our calling. And if we keep this front and center, I think we'll avoid a lot of the pitfalls that people run into when they start trying to obey Jesus' commands. And when they start reading through the Sermon on the Mount and they treat it like a set of rules of I've got to follow this and this and this. And if I do, I've got the good life. If I do, I'm something, better than I was, and maybe even better than people around me. And Jesus is saying, no, the heart behind this is that you would be, and that I would be, salt and light that the world so desperately needs. And so let's consider together today in the remainder of our group time, how can we, who have been so blessed by God, be a blessing to the world around us?